Mic is live. Checking 1, 2, 3. I see it up.
Nothing on YouTube yet.
Checking 1, 2, 3.
All right, let's see the icon. Yep, we're up. We're on AAR, we're up.
You got audio yet?
Yep.
You can hear me good?
Yeah, it's obviously going to be delayed on your page. But yeah, I have audio. Yeah,
All right, we got you. You're good. And we'll cut the audio now. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How you doing today? Armed American Radio's Monster Cast will begin here in about 2 minutes. Got a great guest lineup for you. Alan Gottlieb is returning to the program. We have a lot to talk with him about. Followed by Dr. AAR Hawkins from Breitbart News. Makes another return to the show. And Cam Edwards will be here at the top of the second hour. Dr. John Lott. And an interesting roundtable for you today. Ryan Petty is out. He's traveling the friendly skies somewhere during the show today. And Brad Primo is out for a couple weeks, so we've got a couple fillers in. You'll like that. That's going to be Paul Markel, student of the gun, and one of the OG's original gangsters, of course, David Codrea, and Justin Moon, CEO of Car Arms. So the roundtable is going to be a lot of fun. Stick with us here. We'll be with you in about a minute and a half, live on hundreds of radio stations. Your favorite Talkers Heavy 100 talk radio broadcast is about ready to begin. Let's get started. We'll see you here in just a couple minutes. If you guys are watching us on social media, please like and share the post. Help us take it back.
Getting voicemail on Alan.
Try him again.
I've
This is Armed American Radio.
If they want to take my guns, they're going to have to bring a station wagon and a whole lot of friends, because I'm not giving them anything.
From the Car Firearms Group studio at the Patriot Mobile Communication Center. Proudly presented to you by the National Rifle Association. National Rifle Association. Here is your host of Armed American Radio, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting for your rights, Mark Walters.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. Armed American Radio's Monster Cast begins right now. How the heck are you? Coming to you from the Car Firearms Group studios here at the Patriot Mobile Communication and Command Center in front of that microphone, and it's all being brought to you by the great National Rifle Association. If you have not yet joined them or rejoined them, now is the time to do it. We'll talk about that throughout the program, but if you like free stuff, you're going to love it. Make sure to join them, and they're going to figure pretty prominently in the program today because of some of the things that they're up to. We have a great guest lineup for you today. Alan Gottlieb will be here momentarily, followed by AAR Hawkins. Cam Edwards from BearingArms.com and Cam & Company will be here, followed by Dr. John Lott. And a roundtable that's going to throw you off a little bit, kind of mess with your constitution if you're a regular listener. Why? Because Ryan Petty will not be here. Brad Primo is out, and both of them, we have some great replacements. Paul Markel, student of the gun, will be sitting in, as well as OG David Codrea and Justin Moon. So that hour promises to be a good one. Greg in Dallas, Texas, how are you, my brother?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Let's see if we can remember how to do radio after a couple days off.
It's been 17 years. I think we'll figure this one out. It's not too big of a deal. Yeah, we've been off. Greg and I have been off for the last 4 days, so it's fun to get back in the seat. I was looking forward to this all week. I don't like being away for that long. It kind of messes with my constitution, to be honest with you. There's always so much going on. But guys, you can watch us on Facebook.com/Armed American Radio Live, Facebook.com/Armed American Radio. We hope you do that. And wherever you watch us, Greg will tell you how to do that in a second. Make sure to like and share the post. Help us take our social media back. We appreciate that as we continue to grow. And so proud to be a member of the Talkers Heavy 100 for 2025, top 100 most important shows and hosts in the nation. That's a real honor. Greg in Dallas, I'll let you take it away where else people can watch us and participate in the chat, and we'll get cracking.
Yeah, sure. Other places to watch the show are going to be YouTube and Rumble. Just do a search for Armed American Radio with Mark Walters over there. On X, we're at AAR Mark. You can also head over to armedamericanradio.org or .com, hit that menu icon, and select your watch live or listen live option. If you'd like to join our live chat, just download Telegram, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
And that'll do it. And before I go to Alan, I want to give a big shout out. He's likely listening today. If not, he'll probably pick it up on podcast. But yesterday, Jerry Henry, the executive director, one of the OGs, if you will, of the original GeorgiaCarry.org, now GA2A.org, finally retired after all of these years. And Jerry, if you're tuned in, we love you. I was able to go into the luncheon celebrating your retirement yesterday by phone. I was actually scheduled to MC it, but my flight just didn't allow me to get there in time. We love you. Congratulations, and thank you for all of the work that you have put in. You're too humble to say it, but I'm not. It's because of your direct leadership that Georgia is one of the top 3 states in the nation to carry a firearm, and we appreciate everything you do. We love you. Congratulations on your retirement, and we hope you enjoy every single minute of it. Alan Gottlieb, founder of the Second Amendment Foundation, how are you, my brother?
I'm fine. Welcome back, Mark. It's good to have you back in the fold.
Oh, thanks, Alan. It's good to have you back in the show. We've got a lot to talk with you about today, so let's get started. I got to start with Gavin Newsom. Well, let's start on a fun note, because you put a press release out at the CCR-KBA. Gavin's gun epiphany needs affirmation by action. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you were listening to the program last week before I took off, we had a lot of fun with Gavin Newsom on this one because the guy is such a blatant liar. What else do you say about this guy except that? But, Alan, I'm going to play the clip for you of Gavin Newsom, and then we'll come back to you for some commentary on this, which I'm sure will be good. Greg, take it away. Let's take a listen to Gavin Newsom talking about how he just really appreciates your gun rights.
Last thing people would expect is that I respect this gift.
Ready for this?
This is an accident. I got to report this gift, man.
That is a California compliant, 6-hour P365 macro.
This is too cool. The fact that you would give me this. You just want TSA to take this from me and not the airport. I'm on to you, man.
I got a buddy at SIG, and he was like, you got to get a SIG in his hands.
Make this up.
Jason.
Brother, this is fabulous. I'm not anti-gun at all. I'm for just some gun safety, common sense. I'm challenged by large capacity magazine clips in urban centers, weapons of war, sometimes outgunning the police. But otherwise, man, people have the right to bear arms, and I got no ideological opposition to that at all.
Alan, go ahead. It's all yours. The floor is yours.
Well, this is why the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms put out the news release this week going after him on this. Because he's really not having an epiphany. He's just a consummate politician that knows, how to try and manipulate things. If he really truly supported Second Amendment rights, there'd be a significant amount of laws in California that he never would have signed into law, and he'd be screaming to get rid of. Not the things that he mentioned of that, hey, I'm for this, this, and this, but I'm really pro Second Amendment. There's significant other things as well that he signed into law. And he's constantly going after gun rights groups, constantly going after court decisions that overturn a lot of his laws that he signed into laws unconstitutional. I mean, this man has no conscience.
Oh, it's cringy to listen to him. But you point out in the press release from CCR-KBA, although Newsom was gifted with the SIG pistol, he left the gun with Ryan, podcast host, so it may be legally transferred to him back in California, where it would be shipped via a federally licensed firearms dealer, standard procedure. When the gun arrives, the governor can fill out the necessary paperwork and go through the state's 10-day waiting period after he passes a background check. If he plans to carry concealed, he must obtain a California firearm safety certificate before he applies for a carry permit. And, of course, Alan, you had to say in the press release, we will wait with bated breath for Governor Newsom to announce he has completed all of the California requirements. Then he can show us a sample of his safety and marksmanship skills, which should be rather enlightening. I would change enlightening to entertaining because I think that would be a little bit more befitting. But, Alan, we know he's not going to do any of that. He probably feels he's above his laws. So I got to ask you this question before we move on. What state are you most active in at Second Amendment Foundation and fighting lawsuits currently? And I'm going to guess which one it is.
It's California. I think we currently have a minimum of 13 and maximum of 16 suits filed in California that we're litigating right now over their gun laws.
How many lawsuits do you have against Governor DeSantis and the Florida Attorney General, Governor Kemp and the Georgia Attorney General, and Alabama, and for that matter, Arizona and any other gun-friendly state? Just asking for a friend.
None.
So Gavin Newsom's lying through his teeth, right? Okay. I think we made that clear.
But the problem, Mark, the problem is, though, he's really good about lying through his teeth. And the mainstream media or the lamestream media doesn't challenge him on it and lets him get away with it.
Well, you know, I made this comment on The Daily Show. He is the most dangerous politician in this country right now, I think. And you can correct me if you think I'm wrong. But for that very reason, because he is so good at it. He sits there effeminate with his legs crossed, having a normal conversation. Sounds like a guy you'd want to drink coffee with or have a beer with. But if you know any better about Gavin Newsom, you know everything coming out of his mouth is a bald-faced lie. But that makes him very dangerous, Alan. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, you're right. I can't correct you, Mark. You hit the nail right on the head.
Well, the guy's going to run for president, Alan. I think you and I will agree with that. That's probably a foregone conclusion, is it not?
Well, if he wants to, there's no doubt about it, and he's making all the moves to run, including this little maneuver he just did, because obviously the Democrats know they need to attract male voters, and they're not getting them by pushing gun control.
Well, do you think is he stupid enough to believe that he will not be challenged? For example, just the mere statement, just what we're talking about now, you've sued him dozens and dozens of times over his tenure as the governor of California. Does he think is he too stupid to believe that will come up or won't come up, I should say?
Well, look, I mean, let's be candid about it. You had Kamala Harris telling everyone, I own a Glock, so I'm not anti-gun. You had the vice presidential candidate, Waltz, talk about what a great hunter he is, but he couldn't figure out how to load his shotgun, on camera. I mean, these people are just unbelievable. I mean, they're divorced from reality. So I can't comment on what Gavin Newsom, if he thinks he's going to get away with it or not. I know he's going to try to get away with it, and I know we're not going to try to let him get away with it.
Well, guys, it's a media thing, ladies and gentlemen. Gavin Newsom has had the left-wing media in his hip pocket for so many years that he probably truly does believe he can get away with it because he thinks the media will do his bidding. This is the bubble that this guy lives in. And a great analogy and a great example of that, ladies and gentlemen, was when he was telling you to wear a mask and keeping you in while he was out eating in fancy French restaurants with no mask and all of his friends, drinking and whipping it up. The guy hates your guts. Alan, we've got 30 seconds before the break, so I'm going to set you up with this. When we come back, we're going to talk with Alan Gottlieb. 6 leading gun rights organizations have just filed a joint lawsuit to overturn New Jersey's suppressor ban, and it's so great to look at these 6 gun rights groups working together here. And it's not just this. But the gun rights organizations, the big ones around the country, and we'll go into detail when we come back from the break, are working hand in hand. And yes, the NRA is one of them. And of course, the SAF is applauding, Second Amendment Foundation. For those of you who might not know it, that's the acronym SAF, you might hear it as that. Second Amendment Foundation is applauding the DOJ proposed rights restoration rule. We'll talk about that and anything else we can cram in with Alan Gottlieb, founder of the Second Amendment Foundation. Your favorite Heavy Talkers Heavy 100 continues right after the break. Don't go away.
I'm not anti-gun at all.
Mics and cameras are up. Hot one today, bro.
Oh, yeah.
The following segment of Armed American Radio is proudly being brought to you by the National Rifle Association. Help us defend freedom by visiting nra.org/AAR and join today. Welcome back to the show. Yeah, welcome back to the show. We appreciate you being here very much. Thanks to all of our listeners, all of our partners. and all of our great affiliates around the country. I'll take this opportunity to point out the National Rifle Association because we're going to be talking about them in connection with the Second Amendment Foundation and others here momentarily with Mr. Gottlieb. Now's the time to join or rejoin the NRA, and we've got a few hundred of those bags left, I believe. I've lost count because I hadn't been on the seat for about 4 days, but we'll check on that tomorrow with the Daily Defense. But if you like free stuff, all you've got to do is visit nra.org/AAR, nra.org/AAR. Join or rejoin, and if you sign up for a 1-year or 3-year membership, you're going to get the range bag. I've got one here in the studio. I'll show it during a break upcoming for those of you that are watching on your devices or TV sets and all that fun stuff, cable, wherever you're catching the show. And if you sign up for the 5-year or life, you get the 10x42 super high-quality binoculars with the case. So now's the time to do it. Get them before they're gone. And when they're gone, one of you will win a second range bag loaded with swag from Armed American Radio's other partners. That will include holsters, belts, food products, all kinds of cool stuff. So make sure to visit nra.org/AAR and take advantage of all that free, cool stuff and help us continue to fight for your gun rights because the Democrats, as Ryan Petty says, will never stop. Alan Gottlieb, founder, Second Amendment Foundation, welcome back. Let's talk about NRA and SAF. 6 leading gun rights organizations have filed a joint lawsuit to overturn New Jersey's suppressor ban. What's going on here? Because there's a lot of activity going on in New Jersey. I smell changes coming up there.
Yeah, New Jersey's got a very, very restrictive, ban on NFA-type items. And there's 2 challenges of that. And what's really great is we were able to get everybody on board. So not only is, main groups like Second Amendment Foundation and NRA, involved in it, but you've also got 2 state New Jersey groups as well, the American Suppressor Association, and it's really just great to be all together on one page. It makes it a very strong lawsuit with good individual plaintiffs as well as great attorneys behind it all. So I'm kind of excited about this one. It's nice to have that many people all working together.
It really, truly is. And these organizations, again, ladies and gentlemen, the Second Amendment Foundation, American Suppressor Association, NRA, Safari Club International, SCI, which is the Safari Club International, Associate of New Jersey Rifle and Pistol Clubs, that's ANJRPC, and the New Jersey Firearms Owners Syndicate. We spoke with one of the attorneys there just last week. All of them announced the filing of the joint federal lawsuit in the District of New Jersey, which Alan just said challenges the state of New Jersey's unconstitutional ban on firearm suppressors. Alan, was there a reason New Jersey was picked for this over and above anybody else? Because there's a lot of momentum in New Jersey now. Did that come into play?
What came into play in New Jersey, we've also got similar suits filed in some other jurisdictions as well. But what came into play for New Jersey is New Jersey is more restrictive than a lot of the other states that have clamped down and not allowing you to own NFA-type weapons.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, particularly if you live in New Jersey, again, this is why it's so important to not only join your local groups, but to also join, and I could flip that, to not only join the national groups, but your local groups as well, and not only join your local groups, but the national groups also. Very, very important, particularly if you live behind the blue wall, any of the 12 states in particular that are continuing to fight us post-Bruin. That's why we're here. That's why we talk about these issues every single day. SAF is applauding the DOJ proposed rights restoration rule. This is interesting, Alan, because while it's getting some publicity, it's also at the same time kind of skating and flying underneath the radar. What's going on here with this?
Well, this is again a good shot for the Trump administration, showing they support Second Amendment rights, and that people who have been convicted of nonviolent felonies or misdemeanors punishable by more than a year, who are no threat to society whatsoever, should not be denied their right to keep arms for life. As you know, Mark, the Second Amendment Foundation has been in court doing these battles now for about 50 years on Second Amendment rights for restoration. This all comes about because a number of years ago, Chuck Schumer was able, when he was a congressman, not a senator, was able to kill funding for the background investigations to restore people's rights, and subsequently been able to keep that in effect, and also since he's been in the Senate as well. And so while on the law on the book says there's a way to get your rights restored, there's no way to get it processed. and the Trump administration figured a way around that, but pulling it from ATF and the Treasury Department from doing the background checks and everything to having the Justice Department do the case examinations and on a one-by-one case restore people's rights. It's really important, and it's now for the first time going to get done. We're really excited about it, and this has been just as an aside, one of the premier things that my wife Julianne has been pushing for years, and she's very concerned about people having the right to self-defense who have been denied because of a stupid, conviction on something that's nonviolent whatsoever for their whole life. And so we're really applauding this, and my hat's off to President Trump and to Attorney General Pam Bondi for doing this. And it's going to work, and it's going to be just absolutely great. And of course, the Chuck Schumers of the world are going crazy over it.
Well, that was my next question, is pushback, obviously, because, the Democrats are on their heels right now, not just on the gun rights issue, but on a lot of issues. Trump has got them just rocking backwards. They don't know what to do. What kind of pushback are we seeing that might not be public? Are you aware of any? Is Schumer working behind the scenes? What do the Democrats have planned for this? Because we know they hate this.
Well, their plans are to try and stop it, period. But the problem right now is they don't control the House or the Senate or the committees get move any legislation to do anything. And the Trump administration, lacking Congress saying they can't do it, can go ahead and do it. And so at least for the next 2 years, through the next election cycle, rights are going to be able to be restored. It'd be much nicer to have this done legislatively so that, no matter who the president is, rights could be restored rather than just by executive order, so to speak, or administrative actions. But we're working on that, so we're pushing that. And of course, the Democrats are doing everything they can to try to make sure those votes don't get to the floor.
All right. Now, I want to flip back to New Jersey with you with the limited time that we have left. We've spoken with John Petrolino on this show from Bearing Arms. We have also spoken with Joe Laporto from New Jersey Firearms Owners Syndicate. There's a real solid, I'm sensing a lot of momentum here. Now, the CCR-KBA, the momentum in this place, ladies and gentlemen, officials in a third New Jersey municipality have passed a resolution to return their portion of the state's $200 fee for a carry permit, scoring yet another victory for the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms and its partners in an effort to partially refund the exorbitant fees to gun owners. Alan, there seems to be a lot of wind behind the backs here. Is New Jersey in play in their gubernatorial election? How important are gun rights going to be? And can we see New Jersey maybe flip a lot more pro-gun, where it's not so everything that's good in New Jersey is how few bad things get through? Are we seeing a great movement here begin?
I don't know. New Jersey is a very hard state for us to work in. It's very blue. It's been moving more in our direction, but I still don't see us winning the governor's seat or, for that matter, getting control of the state House and state Senate, which is even more difficult. So I can't say that's the case. But like from our point of view, we're going to fight no matter what. We don't care what the state is or what color the map is. We're doing everything we can, and now we've got 3 cities that have rescinded their fee portions for concealed carry permits, and a 4th one is about ready to join in.
That's all positive news, ladies and gentlemen. And you want to shake Alan's hand September 26th through the 28th in Utah at the Gun Rights Policy Conference. I'll talk about that in the next segment. Alan Gottlieb, thank you. We love you. You're a fan favorite for a reason. We'll be back right after this with AAR Hawkins from Breitbart News.
it's Andy Hoosier, the voice of reason on KQAM, Wichita's Big Talker, and you're tuned into the Armed American Radio Network. Now let's get back to the man himself, Mark Walters.
Andy Hoosier, the voice of reason. We love Andy Hoosier for lots of different reasons. He is also a Talker's Heavy 100 for 2025. Sat in for me on Wednesday and Thursday last week while I was out of town doing some business, and we appreciate that rejoin very much. KQAM, Wichita's Big Talker, Andy Hoosier is what I refer to as your favorite son. You guys got a good one there, and we love you all at KQAM in Wichita, Kansas. Guys, welcome back to the program. The Car Firearms Group studios are lit up for you. The Patriot Mobile mic is fired up for you here at the Command Center, all brought to you by the National Rifle Association. Guys, let's go to AAR Hawkins first. A couple of things I want to talk with him about, but I want to start with something that might – I have questions about this just because it doesn't make much sense to me, and hopefully AAR Hawkins can throw some information on this for us. AAR Hawkins, Breitbart News, welcome in, brother. Always a pleasure, my brother.
Great to be with you, buddy. Can I do a quick shout-out?
You sure can. Go for it.
I'm sitting here tonight. Fortunately, I didn't have to fly tonight. I thought I would. I'm in Billings, Montana. So shout-out, of course, to my buddy, Attorney General Austin Knudsen, but also a shout-out to my buddies Rob and Karen and my buddy Jeff and Danielle and their crew. Just great to be with them. We're not sitting together because I'm on this, but I've got a feeling they might be listening right now through their phone. So just a shout out. I told them how great the show was, and good to be with you.
Yeah, and we've had the Attorney General on, and thanks to you guys for tuning in. We appreciate it. You got a good one there with AAR Hawkins. Real quick before we get started, I didn't get a chance to ask you when you were on last week, but you did some hunting with Mr. Knudsen, did you not, with the Attorney General? Tell us about that. That had to be a blast. My gosh. Do we have him?
Yeah, he's still connected.
AWR, you still connected? Maybe you got a cheek mute going on. Let's see if we can get you back. There you go.
I'm right here.
There you go.
Right here. I shot with a lever, Henry lever action 5.56, and it's a magazine fed, just like a AR-15. You want to talk about an incredible firearm, Mark? I mean, it's sick how good it is. Suppressed. I had a Vortex Diamondback on top of it, and I hit well over 300 yards for a number of prairie dogs, over 380 yards for one, but I'm talking it'll reach out and touch someone. And but the glory of it is not that. The glory of it is to be with Austin. Montana has no idea, or maybe they do. That's why they keep electing him. What a great man Austin Knudsen is. And I mean, and Mark, you're going to know what I'm saying because you and I have been together a long time. You'll meet a lot of people that hold an office. And once they get in office, they're pro-gun, but they got to figure out guns after they get in.
Yeah.
Austin came into office a hunter, a fisherman, a Pro 2A. Like, Austin will take your gun apart with his eyes closed and put it back together. That's Austin before he ran for office. He didn't learn it afterward to fake it. He's the real deal. What a great man. And I honestly count it an honor to be with him.
Well, I got to say this, and Austin, you're probably listening. We love you. But, I mean, come on. Seriously? That's really no big deal. I mean, Tim Waltz and John Kerry can do that, too, from what I understand.
Yeah.
With their tags on. Yeah. I'm kidding, Austin, of course. Yeah, he's a great outdoorsman and a great spokesperson for the Second Amendment. Montana, you're listening on a number of cities. We love you guys, and you've got a great one. Keep electing him. He knows your rights. He lives your rights. He breathes your rights, and he fights for your rights every single day, man. You have a good one. I wish we could import him everywhere. Let's move AWR. You got one of your top stories up today. I don't follow UFC that much, so I'm really not familiar who Diego Sanchez is. I've heard the name, but it's not really in my wheelhouse. I do other things. I just don't know that much about it. But you write that he was arrested last week on Thursday after allegedly, we say allegedly, firing a gun from a moving vehicle as he passed a crash on I-40. And I'm guessing that happened in Albuquerque, New Mexico on 40. He's 43 years old. He admitted having a gun, but he denied firing the shot. Okay, it's not hard to figure that one out in the long run. But why was he shooting at a passing crash? And you write on here that he had rolled the window down and was yelling like, I love you, I love you, I love you, 505, and pulls off some rounds. What is going on with this? It's a very weird story.
I was going to say, I can't really speak to it. I mean, you've basically said everything I could say. The words that come to my mind are mental illness and other things, but to fire a shot, number one, from a moving vehicle makes no sense. But to fire a shot at a crash site where officers are already on scene, see, that's why they nailed him, because whoever fired the shot, I'm still going to stick with the allegedly. I'm not going to say he did it, but whoever fired the shot while the cops were there. So the cops smoked him. So you can't be that stupid and be a rational person. So there must be some degree of mental illness or something going on. It'll be interesting. We'll find out in the long run, but right now nobody knows.
Yeah, it's interesting. And 505, ladies and gentlemen, in case you don't know or haven't figured it out, is the area code for Albuquerque. And I just, when I first read this, I was wondering, he was passing a crash. Maybe the crash happened around him, and he fired at them, because he may have been involved in what? Who knows? But you're right. Mental illness comes to mind here.
Let's be honest, though. People who really want to be proud of themselves say 502. That's where I grew up in Kentucky. Okay. That's the area code of winning.
Yeah, well, let's talk about another loser, somebody who's definitely not a winner. David Hogg just got trounced in a Democrat in a primary in Arizona, state you know well. He's now doubling down on his criticism of the Democrat Party after his PAC, David Hogg's PAC-backed candidate, lost in Arizona's special election Tuesday and literally got trounced. Now, David Hogg is, I put him right up there with Newsom as far as, the guy he'll look at a camera and lie right to your face. But David Hogg is more. Gavin Newsom's not stupid. David Hogg is stupid. I'll put it that way. Let me make that change, or that comparison there. But what's going on with Hogg?
The difference this way. Gavin Newsom is a soy boy who can grow a beard. David Hogg is a soy boy who hasn't shaved yet. That's the difference in those two. So let's keep that straight. But David Hogg is mad at the Democrat Party because he handpicked a candidate and she got shellacked. And that's it. So now he's mad at his own party because they didn't support his candidate. That's what we're dealing with, Mark. That's it, period.
What I find interesting about this, he's always been a very vocal part of the Democrat base, and the Democrats have embraced him for his anti-gun positions. I kind of get the sense that David Hogg is being shunned at this point by the Democrat Party to a point that David Hogg is making himself more irrelevant than he already believes he's not. He's going to be far more irrelevant than he thinks he is important, which will just be one less vocal anti-gun voice out there if the Democrats aren't even embracing his message. Could I be right about that, or if it's anti-gun, are they just going to love him anyway?
No, I agree with everything you said. He's being ostracized by his own party.
Great. That's a great description.
I think it's wonderful. As I say, he's a soy boy, and he's out of touch, and he is opposed. Once he took up his gun control platform, he opposed everything that would make schools safer, and instead he embraced gun control, and so that's it. But anyway, I will be honest with you, and your listeners already know. They listen to us every week. But the only reason I write on David Hogg is because I love to laugh at him.
30.
Oh, yeah.
And he knows that. He knows that. I love to laugh at him, and I would love to meet him to laugh in his face, and that's it.
Well, that's why we talk about him a lot. He is basically irrelevant. The problem is, ladies and gentlemen, guys like David Hogg have always gotten a ton of media attention. And it's guys like David Hogg that helped me design the show the way I designed the show 17 years ago. That's why we don't have gun grabbers on here, because they get plenty of airtime. This show belongs to you. It belongs to me. It belongs to us as American patriots and gun owners. And guys, to watch guys like David Hogg fizzle out is a beautiful thing. Armed American Radio's Monster Cast continues here in the Car Firearms Group studios. We have one more segment with great AAR Hawkins from Breitbart News coming up right after this. A couple other things to talk with him about, and then we'll move into hour two. We'll be right back. up.
This segment is brought to you by Attorneys on Retainer. Get the only self-defense program for gun owners backed by a real law firm, the Attorneys for Freedom. Visit them online at attorneysonretainer.us. Welcome back.
Yeah, guys, that's just great advice, and I hope you take that advice. I've done it here. My entire family has done it. You can do it too. If you carry a firearm for self-defense, there are just certain things that are no-brainers. You had better be trained in your firearm. You had better be aware of your surroundings. You need to learn these things. You need to understand your gun. You need to know safety. And guys, if you carry that gun with you every day, it's in anticipation of hoping never to use it. But if you do have to use it, what are you going to do when the investigation begins? And there will be an investigation. I don't care how clear-cut it may be. It may be real clear-cut to you and not so much so to a prosecutor or to the perp's family who may want to sue you, maybe over and above criminal. If you don't have an attorney, I'm going to put this bluntly, you're screwed because you're going to have one. And if you don't already have one lined up, it's going to cost you, it could cost you everything you own. Imagine that. It doesn't have to be that way. Attorneysonretainer.us solves that problem. It's $35 a month. And if you say you saw them here or heard them here on Armed American Radio by visiting attorneysonretainer.us/AAR, $50 off the sign-up fee, $35 a month for an attorney. Your costs will never go up, period. No matter what is involved in the case, you have a team of attorneys who do only one thing in their practice, and that's self-defense cases. It is an absolute no-brainer. Please visit them at attorneysonretainer.us and have that legal protection in your back pocket from day one. God forbid you ever have to use your firearm to defend yourself, your family, your community, whatever it may be. They've got you covered. attorneysonretainer.us/AAR. Thank them and support them. They support us, support them, and rest easy at night. God forbid, as I said, you had to use that firearm. attorneysonretainer.us/AAR has you covered. You can find them and all of our great partners at armedamericanradio.com. Let's get back over to AWR Hawkins. AWR, do you know what's going on with the 3 deputies killed in this explosion in Los Angeles at the sheriff's facility? Was this a terrorist attack? Was this an attack? Was this an accident? Do you know? I'm just curious.
No, all I know, I think they were moving ordnance. That's all I know. It would have been a training accident, but it's a shame. I hate to see officers die, period.
Yeah, I just, when I saw that, I knew you were going to write about it, and I was wondering if we had seen any new news on that. I have not. You've got a piece up now that's interesting because Dr. John Lott will talk about this coming up, ladies and gentlemen, in the next hour. But stricter gun control states lead in adolescent firearm deaths. AWR, that flies in the face with what they've been putting out and telling us all day long with their propaganda that states like Florida, states like Arizona lead in adolescent firearms death, when in fact it's the strictest gun control states that do. And this report came out from the National Shooting Sports Foundation. You know the organization well, like me. You've been a member for many, many years. What's going on here? What can you tell us?
I mean, you just go back. It's like you go back to greasy-headed Gavin Newsom, always talking about gun rate. He goes, gun death rates. They have higher gun death rates, and the left always tries to shift, Mark, as you know, from actual numbers to rates. That's what they try to do. And the reason he does that is because in 2021 and 2023, California led the nation in active shooter incidents, although they have more gun control than any state in the union. But it goes deeper than that, as you point out. When you look at National Shooting Sports Foundation, the NSSF, you and I know them very well, they looked at the CDC numbers, and when they looked at CDC numbers, they realized people aren't reporting these numbers properly. When we look at these numbers properly, if you break it down and look across the country, the states with the loosest gun laws, those are not the states where the adolescent firearm deaths are happening. They're happening in the states with the most strict gun laws, Mark. And, of course, this is something that we can't talk about. No, Gavin Newsom will probably use the word rate or do whatever he can, that greasy-headed man, to try to keep us from understanding it. But the facts are the facts. And the states with the strictest gun control have the highest number of adolescent firearm deaths. And that's just, it's simple. It's right there. It's in front of you. It's facts and figures. You can't argue with it. It's Thomas Sowell all over again. If you don't know who Thomas Sowell is, buy a book and read it. He's one of the greatest minds that ever lived. But Thomas Sowell is nothing but a man of facts. And if you look at the facts, the states with the highest gun control regulations have the highest amount of adolescent firearm deaths. There you go. Write it down.
And you've been debunking the myth for so many years, AWR, about the 17, gun deaths being a firearm being the leading cause of death for kids in this country. You've debunked it for years. Go ahead.
No, I'm laughing because what a joke. Well, they did that because Joe Biden, it was the last, probably, to be honest with you, it's the last year when he knew he was president, 2022. Joe Biden claimed that more kids are killed by firearms every year than anything else. The leading cause of death for kids. Leading cause of death for kids. Now again, Joe Biden didn't even know he was giving that speech. Probably didn't know where he was standing, and probably his diaper was sour. But hey, that's Joe Biden. But if you look at the numbers from which he quoted, the CDC numbers, I went in and the CDC hadn't closed the table yet, and I was able to go in and do a very specialized search on the CDC table. And what you realize is when Joe Biden says that guns are the number one killer of kids, he's including people of voting age, ages 18 and 19. If you remove if you remove those kids, I can't remember, Mark, but I'm going to guess, and if I'm wrong on this, don't hold it against me, but you can. I don't care. But I believe you're 27 times more likely as a 0 to 17-year-old. You're 27 times more likely to die in an accidental vehicle death than an accidental firearm death. And so what the left has done here is they've used all of this noise to try to cover the truth about that kind of information. And as I say, Joe Biden was the first carrier of it. And, he doesn't care. He doesn't care that he's lying because he doesn't even know he's talking.
He doesn't even know. He doesn't even know at this point. I got to cover this with you before we go, but there's a beautiful happy ending story. I love happy ending stories like this, folks. A Phoenix, Arizona homeowner, my affinity for Phoenix, shot and killed an alleged burglar. Guy was in his backyard trying to get in the house. There's nothing alleged about that, but I get it. While he was on a 911 call with cops shortly before 8 a.m. last Sunday. Real quick, what happened?
That's what happened, but think about the glory of that.
Oh, it's beautiful.
So he's talking, hey, I've got somebody coming up. I got some
30.
That's how it goes. And you know what's glorious about it? The homeowner and his family are safe, and whoever it was trying to break in his house. And I know people don't think that this really causes people to change their behavior, but whoever was breaking into his house will never break into a house again. But that homeowner and his family are safe. So I love that. And that's what the Second Amendment is all about. If you want to understand it real quick, that's it. So get your gun, get your ammo, figure out how to use it, get comfortable with it, and when they come up and pose a threat, you handle business.
Yep. Ladies and gentlemen, the homeowner was taken into custody, then released, and our good friend, the sheriff out there, Jerry Sheridan, understands this all too well. And AWR, before I let you go, I know you'll know the answer to this. You can finish the sentence for me, but hey, Mom, he will not be home for, Kwame Hightower will not be home for what?
He will not be home for dinner. Not only that, he won't be there for breakfast. So if you got a couple of extra eggs, text me your address, and please put
20
well-fried hash browns in there. I'll be there.
Oh, yeah. Make the hash browns for AWR. God bless you, AWR. We love you. AWR Hawkins, Breitbart News, a fantastic happy ending story. When we come back, Cam Edwards and Dr. John Lott, 6 minutes after the hour. Don't go away. All right, guys, stick around. 6 minutes after the hour, we will be back. We're gonna do what we say on radio. We're gonna take a biology break real quick. We'll be back with Cam Edwards for the first half of the second hour, and the second half, Dr. John Lott. We have a lot to cover, And as always happens, we will not get to all of it, but we will do the best that we can. And then a classic roundtable coming up. Going to be an interesting one. Ryan Petty, who has taken over for the great Neil McCabe, who I spoke to yesterday, by the way. He's doing great. Wanted me to tell listeners hello. But Ryan Petty cannot be here. He is on a flight. So Paul Markel, student of the gun, will be filling in for him. And Brad Primo is out for a couple of weeks. He told us about that last week on the broadcast. So the great David Codrea, a roundtable OG, been with us for many, many years, will be filling in. So it's going to be a great roundtable with Paul Markel, student of the gun, David Codrea, and, of course, the great Justin Moon, CEO of Car Arms. So enjoy your break. We'll see you at 6 minutes after the hour. Don't go away. And if you're watching us on social media, please share and repost these things and help us take our social media back. We appreciate it very much. In the time that that it takes for us to come back, you can also check out our partners at armedamericanradio.com. We'll be back at 6 minutes after the hour live for you guys. See you in a few. Mics are live. Cam's on. We're good to go. Yeah, don't turn the AC on until you come back. Don't turn it on when you leave.
Too busy running your gator about your glasses.
Turn it on when you come back, dumbass.
This is Armed American Radio.
If they want to take my guns, they're going to have to bring a station wagon and a whole lot of friends, because I'm not giving them anything.
From the Car Firearms Group studio at the Patriot Mobile Communication Center. Proudly presented to you by the National Rifle Association. National Rifle Association. Here is your host of Armed American Radio, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting for your rights, Mark Walters.
And welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, Armed American Radio's Monster Cast from the Car Firearms Group studios. Hour 2 begins right now. If you are just joining us, welcome. If you are rejoining us, welcome back. It's a pleasure to be here with you, as I said, in the Car Firearms Group studios here at the Patriot Mobile Communication and Command Center here on the Patriot Mobile Communication and Command Center microphone, I might add. It's all brought to you by the great National Rifle Association. We are live on Facebook. If you want to watch us there, you can do so. Watch us on camera there at facebook.com/armedamericanradio. Greg, I'll turn it over to you for the rest of the lowdown, and then we'll get right to Cam Edwards from Bearing Arms.
Yeah, sure. The rest of the places you can watch the show are going to be YouTube and Rumble. Just do a search for Armed American Radio with Mark Walters. At X, we're going to be at AAR Mark. You can also head over to armedamericanradio.org or .com. On that website, hit that menu icon and then select your watch live or listen live options. And if you want to join our live chat, just download Telegram, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
Yeah, you can do all that fun stuff. Welcome in, guys. Sunday, back at you. Cam Edwards, BearingArms.com, Cam and Company, the legend, the man himself, great friend. How you doing, Cam?
I am good. How are you, Mark?
I'm doing wunderbar. Hey, I promised Alan Gottlieb in the previous hour and prior to the show that I would mention the Gun Rights Policy Conference, and we had so much to cover with Alan, I didn't get to it. But you're going to be there this year, and you sit on the board with me at the CCRKBA.
Yeah.
So we're going to have an awful lot of fun, and you're going to be speaking and all that way fun, cool stuff. September 26th through the 28th. Guys, if you want to come out to Salt Lake City and meet me and meet Cam Edwards and Alan Gottlieb and just a whole litany of other speakers, this is the time to do it, Cam. I'm looking forward to seeing you there. I can't believe I'm telling you that I'm going to see you soon, referring to September already, man. Good heavens.
I know, it's crazy. And, this is actually, Mark, this is going to be the first time that I've been able to attend GRPC in person.
Yeah.
I've been able to join the board meetings remotely the past couple of years, but I haven't been able to get away. So this year, I'm so looking forward to being on the ground, seeing you in person. I've watched the GRPC coverage online the past couple of years, and it's great. There's always a great lineup of speakers, and I'm really humbled to be a part of the lineup this year. So it is going to be fantastic. Salt Lake City is a great town. It's going to be a great weekend.
Yeah, Salt Lake City, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be at the Marriott downtown. So you can visit saf.org/GRPC. Make your reservations. It's free to attend. Now, as I said, you got to get yourself there. But the rates are dirt cheap. It's a beautiful hotel. I've been there on more than one occasion. It's a wonderful place. It's going to be it is a world-class lineup. And if we have some time, I'll read you that lineup. If we don't, no big deal, but you can find it out. GRPC, but I'll be emceeing all day Saturday, the main day of events, and Cam, you're going to be speaking, and it's going to be a great day had by all. So come out, shake our paws, meet us, have some fun. Come out and see Salt Lake City. It's a great gun-friendly place as well, too. Cam, I know you know that. All right, let's get started. First off, from a government standpoint, from a Trump standpoint, from a DOJ standpoint, I'm just going to ask you just a broad brush question. What is standing out to you, Cam Edwards, from Cam and Company and Bearing Arms, with where we are now? There's a lot of lawsuits going on, a lot of happening in New Jersey, a lot of what appears to be really good, strong momentum. A lot of people writing with John Petrolino's all over this at Bearing Arms. A lot of fun stuff. What's the most important thing right now? What are you taking away from everything that's coming from the administration? That's a broad brush question, I know, but I'll toss it over to you.
Sure. I think the most important takeaway is that this is an administration that is not afraid to get involved in these fights on the side of the Second Amendment. So we're seeing the Solicitor General file amicus briefs in support of gun owners, right, as opposed to the Biden administration, which was filing amicus briefs telling the Supreme Court, hey, uphold these gun control laws. Now we've got an administration saying, you need to take a look at these laws. Chuck Michel, head of the California Rifle and Pistol Association, said that the CRPA is delaying their brief in Duncan versus Bonta. That's the magazine ban case. They've asked for an extension. That extension has been granted. One of the reasons they're asking for that extension is to give the Trump administration time to write a brief urging the Supreme Court to take that case. So, that's huge. I mean, we've also seen the DOJ Civil Rights Division settle multiple lawsuits challenging, the various rules that the Biden administration put in place. That's been huge, right? So the force reset trigger lawsuit was settled. You just had these settlements this week regarding the stabilize and brace rule, right? So, while we have not seen the administration take steps to formally undo these rules, and that's been kind of a struggle. I've been a little annoyed by that. We have seen these rules undone through litigation that was started during the previous administration, and now we've got this administration saying, all right, well, you know what, we don't have to publish these rules. We don't have to publish the repeal. We don't have to go through this public comment period. These rules are being challenged in court. Let's just settle these cases, and we'll agree not to enforce these rules going forward. So that's been a big takeaway too, right? It really has been night and day. I mean, you had a previous administration that was weaponizing the government against our right to keep and bear arms. Now you've got an administration that is weaponizing itself against these infringements on our right to keep and bear arms.
And waiting for this stuff to be codified through either litigation or legislation. And it's more than likely because of the Senate, because of the filibuster, because of the makeup of the Senate. I think the courts are going to play a more important, prominent role now moving forward. But the administration is very well aware of the fact that rules can be changed by a new incoming administration, which at some point in time, ladies and gentlemen, as much as I hate to say this, hopefully it's not for some time, maybe 4 or 5 high school educations from now. But there will be another Democrat in office at some point, and they're not going to be friendly to your gun rights. So I like the way the administration is playing this game relative to litigation. Let the courts, and as you just said, urging the Supreme Court to take one of these cases, because once the Supreme Court takes the case and rules in our favor, legislation becomes not necessary. In other words, unnecessary, Cam. So I kind of like the way they're playing the game.
I do too. We've got a couple of interesting cases that are pending before the Supreme Court when they come back in the fall. They haven't agreed to accept these cases, but they'll be talking about them in conference. A number of prohibited persons cases. And I'm interested to see where the government comes down on this. In the Range case, I know you talked about that a lot. That was the case out of Pennsylvania, Brian Range. He falsified his income on a food stamp application decades ago. The Trump administration decided not to appeal the Third Circuit's decision that said Brian Range has a Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. So they let that one sort of slide by, right? Reese versus ATF was another case dealing with gun bans for under 21s. They decided not to appeal the Fifth Circuit's decision saying that Caleb Reese has the right to own a firearm. But there are some cases where the plaintiff is the one who's appealing, right? So there's a case called Vincent versus Bondi that's going to be heard, I think, when the Supreme Court gets back in the fall. They'll talk about this in conference. Melinda Vincent wrote a bad check 17 years ago. She was a homeless drug addict at the time. She has cleaned up her act. She is a drug counselor herself now. She's got a private practice. She works for the state of Utah. She wants to own a firearm for self-defense, but she can't because of that nonviolent felony 17 years ago. And the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals said, yeah, that's absolutely right. And this doesn't violate the Second Amendment. So Melinda Vincent is appealing that law to the Supreme Court. I'm curious to see where the Trump administration comes down on that. I don't think the Trump administration really wants to defend this blanket prohibition for all felons. I think they want to argue, okay, listen, there's a dangerousness standpoint here, right? If you can prove that somebody is dangerous, maybe they were convicted of a violent felony, maybe there's something in their past that shows they can't be reasonably expected to be lawful with a gun, that's one thing. But, people like Brian Range, people like Melinda Vincent, they shouldn't forevermore lose their Second Amendment rights because of a mistake they made decades ago.
Agreed. And as you're likely well aware, but on Friday, just a couple days ago, July 18th, Justice Department published a proposed rule to grant relief to certain individuals precluded from possessing firearms. And this was published in a press release. As I said, ladies and gentlemen, you can go to justice.gov and find this. President Trump directed the DOJ to address the ongoing infringements of the Second Amendment rights of our citizens. Think about how refreshing this is to hear. You would have never heard this from a Democrat administration. All of them, right? Federal law disables the firearms rights of many citizens who have been convicted of crimes without regard to whether they actually pose a threat of violence. But federal law also empowers the AG to restore Second Amendment rights to individuals who are not, quote, likely to act in a manner dangerous to public safety. Now, I will say this on the show right now on hundreds of radio stations. Melissa Vincent will regain her right to carry a firearm. I feel confident in that. It will be interesting to see, as you mentioned, the procedure that the government goes through. But, as I mentioned, let me take this to the break because we're getting ready to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue this because it's extremely important. I mentioned this to Alan. While this is all going on right now, it still is kind of flying under the radar. A lot of folks are not aware of this press release that came out on the 18th. That's why we're here. We'll bring it to you when we come back. We've got one more segment. We're talking to the great Cam Edwards, bearingarms.com, and you know him from watching Cam and Company for many, many years. He is the real deal. He is truly a legend, a great friend, and I hope you come out and meet Cam and myself at the GRPC in Salt Lake City. More with Cam right after the break.
following segment of Armed American Radio is proudly being brought to you by the National Rifle Association. Help us defend freedom by visiting nra.org/AAR and join today. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, welcome back. This is the part of the program as we get about halfway down where I tell you, buckle in, ladies and gentlemen. It's obviously flying right by. We're already in the second segment of the second hour of the broadcast, which means when this segment's over, we're halfway through the program. So buckle down. We'll get to as much as we can. You just heard that rejoin from the NRA. Please join the National Rifle Association or rejoin them. And many of you have. Until those range bags, we're giving you a range bag. It's not a promotion. It's a promotion, but it's not a contest. Let me put it that way. You don't have to vie for it. You don't have to get your name pulled. If you join or rejoin the NRA for 1 year or 3 year membership at nra.org/AAR, we will send you a very cool range bag. You get it for free, plus all the other cool stuff, the magazine, and you get a discount by signing up with that AAR promo code. When they're gone, they're gone. If you sign up for a 5-year or life membership, you get the 10x42 super high-quality binoculars in the case with the covers, lens covers, and everything else by visiting nra.org/AAR, nra.org/AAR. You can go right to my website at armedamericanradio.com or .org. Find that, Attorneys on Retainer, Heaven's Harvest, Crossbreed Holsters, Car Arms, Barrel Buddy. We'll have a promo code for you coming up this week, so hang tight. We'll know a little bit more about that Monday or Tuesday. We'll make that announcement on the Daily Defense. Suffice to say, armedamericanradio.com. Click on the sponsor link and support all of our partners who helped us become a Talkers Heavy 100, one of the top 100 most important shows and hosts in the nation for 2025, as honored by Talkers Magazine this year. We're super proud of that. We couldn't do it without you. We couldn't do it without our affiliates, and we certainly couldn't do it without our partners. So support them all, please. It's why we're here, and it's how we stay here for another 17 years. Cam Edwards, welcome back, my brother. Always a pleasure to have you, bro.
See you, bye, Mark.
All right, Cam. We were talking about this Justice Department publishing the proposed rule to grant relief to individuals precluded from possessing firearms. But this is kind of flying under the radar. A lot of people are not aware of this stuff. We're talking about it. But out there in the general public and on general news, whatever you want to call it, you're not hearing a lot about this. And I suspect because the liberal media doesn't want to put this out there, well, because it just doesn't line up with the Democrat talking points. Felons and guns, oh my gosh, come on.
Well, yeah, or if they do talk about it, for some reason, it's perfectly fine for the left if felons regain the right to vote, right? In fact, it's fine if they regain every right except for the right to keep and bear arms, right? That's the one that they should lose forever and ever. So they'll probably, they'll probably cover this once they get their talking points in order. Once they figure out, why it's a bad idea that this right they should not be able to regain. But also, it's interesting. I mean, the Trump administration, they kind of dropped this on a Friday afternoon. That's, I don't want to say that's where news goes to die, but oftentimes
that's where news goes to die.
Stuff that, right, where they want sort of this stuff to fly under the radar. And maybe, maybe that's intentional. Maybe this was just a matter of timing. We also saw a couple of really important lawsuits drop on Friday afternoon. I don't think the Second Amendment groups that were filing these lawsuits wanted these cases to fly under the radar. So it may have just been a matter of timing for that. But this is really good news. So they have brought together this rule that will allow folks to have their rights restored. And I'm curious, we talked about the Melinda Vincent case. I'm curious in how many of these cases the DOJ will essentially argue to the Supreme Court, hey, don't take these cases because they're basically moot, right? There now is a process for Melinda Vincent and others to use to get their rights back. I don't know if the court's going to accept that, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's the tone that the DOJ takes going forward.
They seem to be signaling that, but we're just going to have to wait and find out. You have a great piece up moving on. Anti-gun Democrats introduce Gun Safety Incentive Act. And here's how I'll tell you I'm smarter than I think I am. Because when I read this piece, I just looked at the headline. I go, you know what? This doesn't sound like an anti-gun bill. As a result, the Democrats are going to use this for a stepping stone. And then as I began reading your column, lo and behold, that's exactly what you said. Would you explain this, please? Because this is how the devious Democrats think they're going to get. What they're doing is they're building a platform for another future Democrat administration. That was my gut feeling. And I felt kind of vindicated when I read that you wrote the same thing. So we're on the same page. What's this about?
Yeah. So this is a quote-unquote gun safety bill, right? It's encouraging best practices for safe storage. There's a 10% tax credit on gun safes and gun storage devices. That's fine. Unfortunately, there's also a mandate that every manufacturer has to put a warning label on their product saying safe storage saves lives, which I think, that really is editorializing. And to me, it's designed to make gun ownership itself, look like a bad thing. I'm all in favor of safe storage, but I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all policy. And I'm certainly not in favor of any government mandate. So what are the safe storage practices that would be promoted under this bill? We know the gun control advocates say the only way to really store firearms safely is to store it locked up, ammunition stored separately, so it is basically unavailable for you to use in self-defense. Right. Is that what they want the DOJ to start promoting? I suspect so. And right now, it would be, the DOJ advocating this as best practice. But as you say, when they've got the power, when they're in the majority, all of a sudden that doesn't become optional. That becomes mandatory. That becomes how you must store your firearm, or you're committing a federal crime.
When I hear you say I'm all in favor of safe storage, ladies and gentlemen, so am I. I have a safe right here, portable safe right below me that has a firearm in it. I also have a firearm right over here that I trust myself isn't just going to hop into my hands and shoot anybody that walks into the studio. What I'm not for, and what I know what you're not for, is government-mandated safe storage, as is what you're talking about here. That becomes the stepping stone that the Democrats are going to use if they can get this through. Because when you look at everything on the surface, nothing wrong with that. Doesn't sound bad. An incentive creating a 10% federal tax credit for certified firearm sales and storage devices through 2030 to promote gun-safe storage doesn't sound too bad, does it? No, until they say, because what do the Democrats always say, Cam? Well, that's a good start when they're in office. Well, we got off to a good start here. Now we get Chris Murphy coming out because them dummies, you dummies up in Connecticut are going to continue to vote this guy in. All right? And I'm not talking to those pro-gun Republicans in Connecticut, but you dumb Democrats up there are going to continue. This guy's going to say, well, it was a great start, Cam. Now we need to make it government regulation. And that's what concerns me about this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what concerns me, too. And we know, we know that that's coming because that is their game plan, right? We've seen this in the past. We know that they're going to do this in the future if they have the power. And as you say, just as at some point, Democrats are going to control the White House again. At some point, Democrats are probably going to control Congress. That's why I'd love to see a clean version of this bill introduced by Republicans. Put in the tax credit and leave it there, right? Nothing about these warning labels, nothing about best practices promoted by DOJ. Just if you want people to use gun safes, all right, give them a tax credit, and more people will buy them.
But we all know the Democrats won't do that. We've only got 30 seconds, so I got to close with this question: are North Carolina Republicans going to be? Are they going to be able to override the governor's veto and finally enact permitless carry? You got 25 seconds.
I'm guessing right now the odds are less than 50%. You need to contact 2 Republicans who voted against it the first time around, and you need to hope that a couple of Democrats are absent on the floor of the House so that they've got the veto-proof majority for that.
Guys, it's going to be up to you in North Carolina. We'd love to see you become the next state to fall. It'd be really good for you and the rest of the country and for the movement as a whole. Cam Edwards, BearingArms.com, and Cam and Company. Can't wait to see you in September. We'll talk to you long before then. That's Cam Edwards, ladies and gentlemen. Check him out at BearingArms.com. Thanks for being here, Cam. Dr. John Lott coming up next.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher wanting to let you know that the crew of the Desperado Sport Fish in Virginia Beach, Virginia supports Armed American Radio and the Second Amendment, and I'm right there with them. Now back to Mark Walters.
Yeah, welcome back, guys. Patriot Mobile. I'm holding up a Patriot Mobile phone. If, in fact, you are watching me on a television set or devices or anywhere else, patriotmobile.com/AAR. Get one. Use a phone company that supports your right to keep and bear arms. That's a beautiful thing. And if you listen to Armed American Radio's Daily Defense, you hear a Patriot Mobile representative talking about all the great things they're doing on fighting on behalf of your Second Amendment rights. And they literally do. They don't just talk about it. They show up at events. They donate money to the organizations that we talk about on this program in support of our right to keep and bear arms. The word patriot in there works because they are all patriots. And we'll have another representative from Patriot Mobile on the air with us on Thursdays, Armed American Radio's Daily Defense. So make sure to check them out. Also, attorneysonretainer.us. Guys, don't be dumb. Take advantage of this opportunity while it's there. Have an attorney in your hip pocket for $35 a month, $25 per person if it's a family membership like mine is. God forbid you ever need to use a firearm, you're going to want an attorney immediately. And if you have to use it and then have to find an attorney, it's too late. It's going to cost you your house and everything else. I mean, we could be talking hundreds of thousands of dollars versus $35 a month for world-class defense on your behalf. You don't want a free attorney when it comes down to, let's just say, when the rubber meets the road. I'll be FCC friendly, okay? When it comes down to blank crunching time, you want the best of the best, and that's not a free lawyer. No offense to public defenders, but guys, attorneys on retainer, that's all they specialize in, is defending you in a self-defense case. It's that simple. You can find them, Patriot Mobile, NRA, Heaven's Harvest, Crossbreed Holsters, Car Arms, Defender Coffee, Barrel Buddy. They're all there for you at armedamericanradio.com or .org. Take your pick. Please support them. It's why we're here. We want to be here for another 17 years, and it's because of our partners and you. So thanks for supporting them. Continue to do so, including mypillow.com. Get some great stuff over there. Use the AAR promo code and sleep better tonight. It's all no-brainer stuff. Let's go to John Lott, crimeresearch.org. Dr. Lott, welcome in, and welcome back stateside, brother. So you spent some time in Brazil and Argentina. I want to hear all about it. How you doing, John?
Doing great. Congratulations on making the Heavy Hitters top 100.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that very much. John, we talked to you when you were in Brazil and didn't get a chance to talk to you when you were in Argentina. What was the trip all about? What's the takeaway? Why do we need to pay attention to this stuff in the United States? And why did they want you there? Because I understand you got through to some folks in Argentina, I guess, right? This was a very productive trip for you, from what I understand.
I think so. I mean, it's always hard to tell, but I gave a couple big talks down there. The first one was to politicians, members of the federal Senate and House in Argentina. I guess there were like 20 of them that were there. And then I gave a talk to police chiefs and other law enforcement in Cordoba, which is the second largest city in the country. So I was in Buenos Aires and then Cordoba. And I did some radio, and I also did a podcast for somebody who's kind of described as Latin America for South America, Joe Rogan, the equivalent there. He does these very long interviews. I was only on for a half hour because it was they were mainly talking about Argentina's Independence Day, which was July 9th. But he said that he wanted to have me on for, a good couple or a few hours to kind of go through issues. So hopefully that will happen soon. But, the thing is, you look at some of the crime data for South American countries, and you just don't even believe it when you look at it. So I'll give you an example. The United States, the burglary rate is about 60 burglaries for every 1,000 people. I mean, not burglaries, robberies, 60 robberies for every 1,000 Americans, 100,000 Americans. In Argentina, it's 1,068 for every 100,000 Argentinians. That's huge.
Yeah.
But I tried to explain to people that probably understates the gap by a significant amount. And the reason is that people don't tend to report crimes if they don't think the criminals are going to be caught and punished. And in the United States, the average violent crime results in arrest about 43% or so of the time. In Argentina, it's in single digits. And so people can go and commit a robbery, and it's very unlikely that they're going to be caught. So my guess is, and one of the things we know from U.S. data, though they don't have the equivalent down there in Argentina, is that whether, as I said, whether people report crimes depends upon whether they think the criminal's going to be caught, and it's a very strong relationship. So my guess is, the total robbery rate, not just the reported robbery rate, could be 4,000 per 100,000 versus maybe 100 per or 120 per 100,000 in the United States. And so, anyway, the question is, how do you stop crime? And it's not rocket science. You and I have talked about this many times. You have to make it risky for criminals to commit crime, and you can do that with things like higher arrest rates, higher conviction rates, longer prison sentences. But you can also do it by letting victims be able to go and protect themselves. And so I know after the talk I gave the politicians, one senator who was there, who I was told was a very powerful, influential senator, who was not a member of Milei's party. He's the libertarian type guy who campaigned on letting people be able to go and have guns for self-defense. So he doesn't have a majority in the legislature. That may change after October when they have their elections for the legislature then. But he came up to me after the talk and said that she thought it had changed her views on things, and she wanted to work with me after the elections in October to try to get legislation through. Milei, when he was running, wanted to go and essentially have objective permitting rules, make it easy for people to be able to go and carry guns for self-defense, kind of do even in a greater extent what Bolsonaro had done when he was president of Brazil for 4 years.
I'm going to ask this question. I don't know how to phrase this properly, but when I look at numbers like you're talking about, these numbers are huge. 1,068 per 100,000 versus 60 in the United States. Are criminals more emboldened there? Are they more violent there because they've been getting away with this for so long in these countries with no repercussions? Does that breed a different type of criminal? I don't even know if that's a legitimate question, but it popped up, so I wanted to ask.
No, I think it's a legitimate question. I think criminals are rational. If it's not risky for them to go and commit crimes, or if they can commit crimes that aren't risky to themselves, they're more likely to do it. Yeah, you see, go drive through Buenos Aires, and you have all these apartment buildings with balconies, and I'm looking at them, and they have kind of chicken wire on the outside of all the balconies, and you say, why do they have that? It's not because they have mosquitoes or bugs that they're worried about. They're not. They're simply not there. And the response I got was Spider-Man. Basically, what happens is they have these burglars that basically scale all the way up, 20 stories or whatever, 10 stories, to go and break into people's places. And so they try to protect themselves by putting this type of wire and other things around their balconies, even though they're 10 stories up.
Well, that's crazy.
They have wire there in order to try to protect themselves.
John, I have to stop you there because we're getting ready to take a break. But I was just in a hotel with my daughter for a few days down in Key West. We were on the second floor, and she said, "Do I really need to lock this door? We're on the second floor. Nobody can get in here." I felt safer on the second floor than I did on the first. Not there. Unbelievable. We'll be back with John right after this. Greg, Spider-Man. Can you imagine?
Do what?
Spider-Man. Can you imagine? Your mic is live, by the way.
What about him?
Can you imagine being on the 20th floor and having to put chicken wire up over your balcony because people are climbing 20 floors to get at you? Here's what has to happen. Pew, 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 and Spider-Man falls 20 floors.
Sparta kick.
I mean, you know, that's a deterrent. I would bet, and I'm going to go here with John when we come back, that if a couple Spider-Men fall 20 floors to their death after being shot, maybe they hit the ground and die, maybe they're dead before they hit the ground, there are probably going to be fewer Spider-Men. Just a guess. We'll ask John about it, because why not?
I think Sparta kicking them would be far more entertaining.
Probably be more fun. I don't know.
But you're welcome to take a mix of ways that you prevent them from climbing.
Couple kicks and then a shot, right?
Yeah, and shoot one climbing up. You don't even have to get up to your balcony.
No, I think it's a great analogy. I think it's a great example of how, you know, I would love to see that happen, because you would see a massive reduction in that type of crime if that were happening. It's interesting. I would have thought you felt safer, like my daughter and I felt safer in the hotel room on the second floor. You know, and I mean, we asked that question a couple times. They said, don't worry about it. I mean, somebody's going to have to throw a ladder up and scale. There was nothing they could climb. I don't know. We locked it, but it didn't take priority like something else would. It was crazy. 20 floors up, Spider-Man. Guys, will be back with you in just a few seconds.
If you own a firearm, you know that a self-defense incident can happen anytime. That's why you need Attorneys on Retainer. They're the only self-defense program backed by real attorneys who specialize in self-defense cases. Visit them online at attorneysonretainer.us. Welcome back.
Welcome back indeed. You would be silly not to. That's, again, a no-brainer thing, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure to check out attorneysonretainer.us and have an attorney and a team of attorneys supporting you if, God forbid, the unthinkable happens. And guess what? It can happen. It doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter if you just heard John talking about on the 20th floor. There's always a Spider-Man. Let's go back to John Lott, founder of crimeresearch.org. So, John, this came up. Greg and I were talking about this during the break. I'm going to guess that if a few more people were able to knock Spider-Man 20 floors to the ground, there would be far fewer Spider-Men attempting that crime, and over time, far fewer apartments with chicken wire that high up if they were able to defend against Spider-Man. That just makes sense to me. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. Look, in my talks, one of the examples I gave was they don't have data on what are called hot burglaries for Argentina or Brazil, but hot burglaries are burglaries that occur while the residents are in the dwelling. And we have data for other countries, and I compared the United States to Britain. Britain has a burglary rate that's about twice the burglary rate that we have in the United States. 60% of the time that burglaries occur in Britain, they occur while the residents are at home. Only about 13% of the time burglaries occur while the residents are at home in the United States. On top of that, American burglars spend about twice as long casing a home before they break in compared to their British counterparts. And when they do break in, they tend to break in around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, while the ones in Britain break in at 8 or 9. And the reason is that in Britain, they want to force the people there to tell them where their valuables are. So they want to break in when the people are at home. Mm-hmm. In the United States, they don't want to break in when people are at home because that's one way to protect yourself from getting shot. If nobody's at home, then you don't have to worry about getting shot. And so I think the politicians understood that. I thought the police that I talked to understood that. And, it basically is the point that you're making. And I think that's exactly right. You have to make it risky for these guys to do it. And, the burglary rate in Argentina is about 4 times more than the reported burglary rate. Reported. Again, my guess is the gap is underestimated there. But the reported burglary rate in Argentina is about 4 times higher than the reported burglary rate in the United States.
It just seems, again, that's one of those no-brainer things. No, man, I'm not going up there, man. I don't want to fall. Right. Come on. Right. It's no-brainer, ladies and gentlemen. It really, truly is. But I'm glad you got through to people. It would be really interesting to use that example in front of Democrats at a Senate panel. I'd love to see you testify to something like that. I don't know if you'd get through to people. It'd be really hard for them to deny that. John, because time goes so fast on the show, you've got a piece up that was published back on June 21st that you and I haven't talked about yet. But Cato Institute is, again, pushing false claims that illegal aliens commit crime at a lower rate based on survey data that ignores that many criminal illegals never serve time in U.S. prisons or serve shortened sentences, and it requires illegals self-identify as illegal. What's Cato Institute up to?
Cato forever, basically, or a long time, has been an open borders group. They never criticized Biden for the massive flood of illegals coming into the United States. They hate Trump for closing the border. They don't like the fact that he's been deporting people. And the big thing that they've been pushing has been that they claim illegal aliens just don't commit much crime in the United States. And what they did was they used something called the American Community Survey, which surveys like 3.5 million people. It's a massive survey. Some of the people that they survey are individuals that are in prison. The problem is that if you're an illegal alien and you commit a crime in the United States, you may be deported as soon as you're arrested. Even if you go to trial and are convicted, they may deport you immediately after you've been convicted. And even if you go and serve some time in prison, it's very common for them not to serve out the full sentence and simply be deported while they're serving their sentence there. And so the problem is let's say you have 2 robbers, both sentenced to 4 years in prison. One's an American citizen, the other one's an illegal alien. Well, if the American citizen serves out all 4 years and the illegal's only in jail or prison for 6 months, you're going to underreport illegal aliens that are there. So It's not a very useful measure of it. And of course, Cato doesn't point out any of these problems that they have with their measure that's there. And but unfortunately, the news media, the New York Times in the past and many other places, just kind of pick up and report their claims. And we hired McLaughlin and Associates to go and do a survey for us of people's views on whether illegal aliens are committing crime at high rates. And unfortunately, about almost 10 percentage points more Americans believe that illegals don't commit crimes at high rates compared to American citizens. And I think a lot of it is due to these types of bogus studies that get put out by Cato and other groups.
Yeah, and the nonsense fed by the left-wing media. And, John, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you'll agree with me on this. We all have things in our lives that we will just probably never get an answer to, and we've accepted that. I'll never figure out why my former business partner did what he did. I'll never get an answer to that because he's no longer breathing. It's that simple. John, this is one of those things. I will never be able to wrap my head around why these people cannot, like people at the Cato Institute, cannot, for whatever reason, understand why closing our borders to illegal criminals is a bad thing. Or to them, it's a bad thing.
Right.
I will never understand that ever. I'll never get an answer to that, I don't think.
Right. But, Milton Friedman, I think, is
you got about a minute,
kind of the archetypical libertarian type. And, in a theoretical sense, he was for open borders, but not as long as we have a welfare state in the United States where people can come in and get free health care, free schooling, free food, free places to live, and Biden, of course, giving people $2,500 prepaid debit cards as soon as they came across the border and other things, fly them to the part of the country that they wanted to go to, gave billions of dollars to these non-government organizations to go and provide for these individuals. It's giving people all these benefits. You're not going to get people who are going to necessarily be the most productive types of individuals. And obviously, look, even the Biden administration's own numbers, and I can go and say that I think these are dramatic underestimate, looked at the 700,000 non-detained individuals that they released, or 7.4 million non-detained individuals that they released in the United States, and they admitted that 662,000 of them had criminal records. That's 9%.
John, I got to stop you there. I have to stop you there because we're getting ready to take a break. I could continue this conversation with you forever. We'll see if we can bring you back this week. But, guys, you just heard the numbers from John, and I hate to have to cut you off, John, but it's a hard break, unfortunately. We'll talk with you this week about that. It's fascinating stuff. Guys like me, you'll probably never be able to wrap your head around it. Roundtable coming up next. Don't go away. 6 minutes after. Thank you, John.
You just filled your prescription for freedom with Mark Walters, presented by the National Rifle Association. The National Rifle Association on the Armed American Radio Network.
All right, guys, 6 minutes after, a very unique roundtable coming up because we have Paul Markel, student of the gun, filling in for Ryan Petty, and we have David Codrea filling in for Brad Primo, or maybe David's filling in for Ryan, and maybe Paul Markel's filling in for Brad. It really doesn't matter. Both of those gentlemen are filling in for the two regulars who are not here today. Ryan is on a flight and couldn't make it, and Brad is out. He'll be out next week as well. So I want to thank them in advance, and I want to thank John Lott for being here, and I hate having to cut. I could talk to John about this stuff forever. That's frustrating stuff. It probably frustrates you like it does me. I've never been able to figure that out, and I'm not sure that I ever will, to be honest with you. I don't understand what makes certain people tick, and we'll never be able to get inside their heads. A lot of it just doesn't make sense. Like, why would you open your borders and allow these people in? And the numbers that John left us with, that they admitted themselves out of the millions that were here, 660,000 were criminals. Why would you want them here? Now, we know certain answers to that, but that breeds other questions we won't get answers to. So it's just a multi-pronged deal. But anyway, it's a fascinating conversation. I hope you enjoyed the hour. I told you it was going to fly by. This next one's going to cruise right by, too. So buckle in. We'll see you at 6 minutes after, coming up after these breaks, these messages on hundreds of radio stations around the nation. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you in the next hour in the Roundtable. Don't go anywhere. It's going to be a good one.
This is Armed American Radio.
If they want to take my guns, they're going to have to bring a station wagon and a whole lot of friends, because I'm not giving them anything.
From the Car Firearms Group studio at the Patriot Mobile Communication Center. Proudly presented to you by the National Rifle Association. National Rifle Association. Here is your host of Armed American Radio, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting for your rights, Mark Walters.
I told you to buckle in, folks. This hour is going to fly right by, too. If you're just joining the program, welcome aboard. If you are rejoining the program, welcome back. We love each and every one of you. You already know that. Armed American Radio's Monster Cast continues. Hour number 3. A classic AAR roundtable here on your favorite heavy hitters from Talker Magazine, top 100 program in the nation. We appreciate that very much. Thank you to Talkers Magazine. We are on hundreds of radio stations around the nation right now, and we just keep growing. It's hard to keep track of the new affiliates, Greg, in Dallas, Texas. Welcome into the Car Firearms Group studios with me here at the Patriot Mobile Communication and Command Center, and it's all being brought to you by the National Rifle Association. You can find all of our great partners that make this show possible every single day, 6 days a week at armedamericanradio.com or .org. We got you covered both ways. This is going to be a fun hour, ladies and gentlemen. I can promise you, because we've got a couple regulars on the program who do not normally appear in this hour of the program. One of them, David Codrea, who will be coming up in just a couple seconds, is an OG to this hour, no stranger, and a longtime contributor to this program. In fact, one of the longest over our 17 years. We're going to have a lot of fun with him. Paul Markel, student of the gun, who you hear every Friday on the Daily Defense, will be joining the hour, and of course, Justin Moon. But before we go to them, let's start with this. You can watch this program on Facebook, facebook.com/Armed American Radio. Greg, I'll turn it over to you to tell everybody where else they can watch the program and participate in the chat, and we'll get cracking.
Yeah, absolutely. Other places you can watch the show are going to be over at YouTube and Rumble. Just do a search for Armed American Radio with Mark Walters. You can head over to X and search out at AAR Mark. You can head over to armedamericanradio.org or .com, hit that menu icon, and select your watch live or listen live option. If you'd like to join our live chat, just download Telegram, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
That's how Greg rolls out the hour. That's the Greg rollout every single hour, every single day, 6 days a week. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it. Welcome to the Car Studios, guys. Car Firearms Group Studios. Let's get cracking. Let's first introduce the CEO of Car Arms, Mr. Justin Moon, Car Arms CEO of the Car Firearms Group. Justin, how are you, my brother?
Doing good, Mark.
Justin, we're going to have a fun hour with you guys today because I'm going to carry the conversation over, and I'll set it up so you know, if you weren't listening, that I just wrapped up with John Lott, because I've got a number of questions that popped up during the break. So we're going to have some fun with that, and I know we're going to get some great answers from you. Justin's going to show you why he's a fan favorite, ladies and gentlemen. We'll set him up to do that for you. Okay, it's really easy to do because believe me, he's going to be all over this. David Codrea, AAROG, welcome to the roundtable. Welcome back to the roundtable, David. You're no rookie here, man. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing real great. I just got done telling Greg that I had to go to Chicago earlier this week, and on coming back, I realized, geez whiz, I don't have an FOID card.
David, okay, that's the firearms owner identification card for those of you that don't live in Chicago that don't know what that is. And let's now go over to Paul Markel, student of the gun. You hear the professor here every single Friday on Armed American Radio's Daily Defense. Paul, it's great to be able to bring you to the classic roundtable. How you doing, brother?
Oh, just fantastic.
And getting better every day, right? Guys, let's start with this. I had a conversation. Well, by the way, Greg, Paul sends in a text message to me earlier. I know it's a roundtable. Am I going to be able to talk more than 5 minents? And then he sends me a little crying smiley face. Paul,
hold on, I got something for Paul on that. Here we go.
Oh, Paul. Yeah, we'll be okay with you, Paul. You know, if Greg has to cut you off, I'll let him do it. But all right, guys, I got to start with this. So I was talking with Dr. John Lott in the previous hour, and as we closed out the segment, we were talking about things that we will probably likely never get answers to in our own lives, right? There are things in my life that I've just accepted at this stage in my life. I'm never going to know certain things. I'll never get an answer to why my former business partner did what he did to myself and my other business partner. It made no sense to any of us. It just did not make sense at all. And then he died. He was murdered by the woman who we warned him about he shouldn't be with. And we'll never get an answer to that. I accept that. And this was brought up because we were talking about why would certain Americans allow an invasion of their country? Why would they want that to happen? And of course, if you try to answer, well, because politically they want to change the country, this, that, and the other thing. And then you could ask, why would they want to do that and destroy their own nation? And during the break, I was talking with Greg about, I think, 4 or 5 of the major cities in Great Britain are now controlled by Muslim mayors. Why would they allow the invasion? We're talking about the land of King Arthur. Guys, kings and queens and King Arthur and that whole storybook thing, okay? Princess Di, the rest of them. Why would they do that to their own nation and allow that to happen? Sweden came up in the conversation. So I'm going to start with Justin Moon. Justin, we have Americans in this nation, in the Biden administration, as we were talking about with John Lott, over 7 million getaways that the administration admitted over 600,000 plus were known criminals. Justin, FCC friendly, please. Why would they allow that to happen willfully for 4 solid years to their own nation that they purport to love so much?
Well, I think there's a disease, if you read history, of wealthy nations where the elites in the wealthy nations become so depraved that they actually despise and hate themselves, and they actually want to commit suicide. But instead of committing suicide themselves, they try to, commit suicide for the entire nation. And I think that's what we're experiencing in our country. We really have a problem with our elites. There's a level of depravity there which is unfathomable.
Yeah,
you got some hints of that depravity through Epstein.
You're right. And I think, that, Greg, if you go back to the conversation we had during the break, we'll bring it out now as I go to David Codrea and then to Paul on this. These are guilty liberals. If you look at every one of these nations, Sweden, Great Britain, all come to mind, have willfully allowed an invasion of their own country. Why? Because they feel guilty, because they hate their form of government. That's what Marxism breeds. David Codrea. Why would they allow that to happen, and why do the Democrats want that for our country? Why did they allow that to happen, and now Trump has to fix it?
It's one of the oldest questions in the world, Mark, and not just the elites, and not to get too biblical on people here, but if you go back to the book of Exodus, okay, and you see the Israelites, and, they experienced, the curses that caused Pharaoh to let them go. Then Moses parts the Red Sea, and then they're starving out in the desert, and they get manna from heaven. And what's the first thing they do when Moses goes up to the mountain to get the commandments? They form a golden calf to worship. Okay, I'm not sure what the suicidal human condition is, but I see great parallels between that and between the people that were out there at the No Kings rally, some of the most privileged people ever to exist on this planet. And they're sitting around throwing out terms they don't understand, like fascism, not understanding that fascism, that Mussolini even said that he was a socialist. So, what are you going to do?
Well, yeah, and let's globalize the Intifada too, Paul. The reason, what does this all have to do with guns? Well, we're talking about crime. And that's what got us started with John Lott, was the criminal aspect of this, right? And we carry firearms to defend ourselves against crime, Paul. You're one of the greatest firearms instructors out there that I'm aware of. Why, in your estimation, why does it happen? Why do they allow it? Why do they want it to occur?
Well, there's lots of reasons. Number one, liberalism is a mental disease. You have to accept that. It's not just being glib. It's really true. It is a mental disease. I think it was in Sun Tzu who said that a tyrant will burn his country to the ground so he can rule over the ashes. And that's what that's what you see. They're willing to literally burn the country to the ground so they can rule over the ashes. But when it comes to firearms, we talked about it previously in the book I wrote called Examining the Armed Citizen. The tyrants and the elitists and so forth, they carp about terrorism and they carp about crime. But the fact of the matter is the criminal and the terrorist is their best friend. Without the excuse of crime and without the excuse of terrorism, how would they control the masses? How would they execute their plan? How would they become necessary? Look at the massive police departments in these disgusting, crime-ridden cities. What would happen if the people actually just took care of business and crime went away? They wouldn't need their masters. They wouldn't need the elitists. and the elitists wouldn't be getting as much money as they're getting. And never forget that. They love the money. And crime and terrorism gives them an excuse to steal more money.
It is a fascinating topic, and it's one that it does really require some exploring. That's something we've talked about on the program for a long time, guys, and we'll continue to explore it on Armed American Radio, because it does come down to national security, and it does come down to your safety individually, because these people are living in your communities, and they hate you, and they were welcomed by a particular party. So I'm going to ask a very bold, controversial question when we come back of all of our guests. We'll be back. Roundtable continues right after this. Gonna fly. Buckle in.
The following segment of Armed American Radio is proudly being brought to you by the National Rifle Association. Help us defend freedom by visiting nra.org/AAR and join today. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, welcome back to the show. I'm going to warn you again, buckle in, ladies and gentlemen. This hour is going to fly right by. We've got a lot of fun things to talk about with the crew. You're in the Car Firearms Group studios with me. Talker's Heavy 100 radio broadcast, Armed American Radio, is live on hundreds of radio stations around the nation right now. Thank you for making that happen and making that possible in 2025. It's a beautiful thing, and we love each and every one of you for it. All of our partners, you can find them all at armedamericanradio.com, including Daniel Defense. Make sure to check out that H9 pistol over there. That is absolutely gorgeous. I still do not have one, but I believe I will be down there in October, so I will let you know, because that thing is beautiful. Make sure to check it out, danieldefense.com. Don't forget Car Arms, the X9. Absolutely gorgeous gun. I can tell you that firsthand. I've had it in my hands. It is beautiful. Can't wait to get my own copy of it. Lots of fun stuff going on with all of our great partners. You can join the National Rifle Association or rejoin the National Rifle Association by visiting nra.org/AAR. And by doing so, you will get a free range bag if you sign up for 1 to 3 years. Membership, if you sign up for 5-year or life, you will get the pair of the 10x42 super high quality binoculars and the case. So join us. It's $35 a year if you want to do the annual membership. $35 for the year. Take advantage of these great offers, all of our great partners. We'll talk about more of them coming up. Let's get back to the crew. We left off with Paul. Let me go to Justin Moon, CEO of Car Arms. And, of course, we're in the Car Firearms Group studios. Justin, do these Democrats, because in the United States it's the Democrats that are now literally outing themselves as Marxists. And, Justin, as you know, we've talked about what's going on in New York City with this Mamdani clown. They're likely going to elect this guy in New York. Democrats outnumber Republicans. Eric Adams has got his own problems. Cuomo's got his own problems. Curtis Sliwa probably doesn't stand a chance in New York City at this point. New York City's going to go to hell in a handbasket. We all know it's coming, and it's all going to be, again, it's self-destructive. But they're likely going to do it. Do these people not know that there are millions of Americans that will literally, truly fight to the death to save our nation? Are they unaware of that? Do they not know American history, Justin?
Well, you know, the communists have, wherever they took power, killed millions of their own citizens, usually like 25% of them. And we almost had, a communist revolution here. Look at all the information that's come out about Obama, basically against the president. If they had succeeded, we would be in the midst of communists controlling our federal government, and there would be no way out except to do what was done in the Civil War.
You'd have to fight your way out. And I guess they don't understand that millions of us would if we had to. David Codrea, the Second Amendment is there for a reason, and it ain't hunting, brother. Same question to you.
Yeah, to go back to what Justin and Paul were saying, it goes back to a John Milton quote from Paradise Lost, when Satan was cast from heaven, said it's better to reign in hell than to serve in heaven. And so these people are bent on power. But mentioning the Second Amendment, like you just did, Mark, leaves a very important point that everybody needs to remember, and none of us need to forget. We know that they want to disarm us. We know that this incremental gun control is merely a step and step and step towards the final goal of a monopoly of violence. The reason we haven't seen mass confiscation is because they also know that the Second Amendment is working. They don't do it because they know that they can't.
Ooh, that's such a great point. Paul, are they, because what I just heard, and David, I'll let you correct me in just a second, are they afraid of us?
They need to be.
They don't talk they are.
That actually is the entire purpose of the Second Amendment. Whether they go back to Jefferson or Madison or what have you, they understood. And they even talked about it, not just in the Constitution, but I would recommend that you guys go back and read the Federalist Papers.
Yeah, oh yeah.
A lot of people think the Federalist Papers are just cheerleading for big government, but actually the Federalist Papers is filled with warnings from the founders. Like, be careful, watch out, don't do this, this is what's going to happen. And it's kind of crazy if you do that. If you read the Federalist Papers, you see the warnings that our founders gave us coming true today.
Yeah. Federalist
I
46
really
is a big one on that respect.
Yeah,
so,
I really believe that what we're going to see is essentially what they've seen in other nations and other, like in Europe, where the major cities just devolve into chaos, and they bring it upon themselves. And the thing, the funny thing is liberalism is such a mental disease. It's literally I'm going to do this. It's the definition of insanity. Do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And they'll bring it upon themselves, but they never accept blame for their own behavior.
That's an interesting take, and you're absolutely correct about that. Guys, if you want to hear Paul and I talk about this stuff all the time, make sure to tune in every Friday, 4 to 5 Eastern, 1 to 3 Pacific. You can do the math in between the time zones and figure it out. Liberals, if you have to, there's charts. You can find charts on how to do that. Just Google time zones. You'll figure it out. It's not too difficult. Justin, I would throw that question. What David was talking about is so true, and I want to ask the same question of you. Are they afraid of us? Is that why they haven't pushed? Because they're so crazed over Trump right now. One of my biggest fears is that they want to push the nation to that. And we've talked about that for years. You and I talked about it through the entire Biden administration on this program. This country, we talked about, gosh, I've lost count how many times we mentioned that the country was on the precipice. And it almost seems like the Democrats are trying to push us there. But what David said is they know the Second Amendment is working. Do they have a healthy enough fear of us at this point?
Well, they pushed the nation to the brink, especially when they stole the 2020 election and installed Biden. But, on January 6th, patriots came out in large numbers, and they took the Capitol. And I think at that point, the communists realized that Americans aren't going to take this standing down. It's the January 6th patriots that saved this nation, Mark.
Yeah, again, more and more is coming out on this, David. As time goes by, we are seeing more and more and more. And, the old T-shirt, the bumpers here, Trump was right about everything. He's been proven right about everything so far, David. I just don't know if the Democrats are scared enough yet.
Well, the only rejoinder I have to that is that you'll notice for all their talk, they have not tried mass confiscation. They tried it in Louisiana during Katrina, and that kind of backfired on everybody. And the other thing that it did, and I'm glad to hear Justin mention January 6th, because as you know, I was involved with Oath Keepers many years ago, and was doing all of their Second Amendment writing for their website. And the bottom line is that they really fear not just what they want to paint as right-wing extremists, but the very simple concept that the police and the military take an oath to the Constitution, and that oath absolutely precedes everything else. It takes precedence over everything, and that's the message that they don't want to have come out, which is why they so heavily prosecuted people like Stuart Rhodes.
And it's also why, ladies and gentlemen, they demonize law enforcement to the extent that they do. And it's why they're demonizing ICE and Border Patrol and everybody else. Fascinating conversation. Armed American Radio's Roundtable, a classic roundtable with David Codrea, Paul Markel, and Justin Moon continues right after this break. We have 2 more segments to go.
Hi, I'm Dr. Sebastian Gorka, letting you know that the Desperado Sport Fishing Crew in Virginia Beach, Virginia supports Armed American Radio and our right to bear arms. Now, back to Mark Walters.
Thank you, Dr. Sebastian Gorka. We appreciate that rejoin very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Armed American Radio's Classic Roundtable continues. Hour 3 of the program. Welcome in. Great to have you with us, and a thank you. Big shout out to all of our great affiliates around the country, and there are hundreds of them. We appreciate each and every one of them. We appreciate you for tuning in. Please be reminded that we couldn't do this without our partners. Please support our great partners. You can find them all at armedamericanradio.com. If you're watching on a television, on any of the cable networks that are carrying us, and your Apple TVs, whatever devices you're watching on, this is a Patriot Mobile activated phone, and you can activate one yourself. It's real simple. I've been porting them over one number at a time. I'm in the process of doing another one. And it's a real simple process. You can figure it all out because they're super friendly. They're all American. The customer service team, you can understand them all. ArmedAmericanRadio.com, or excuse me, PatriotMobile.com /AAR. PatriotMobile.com /AAR. Check them out and do business with a company that supports what we're talking about on this program. They don't just support it by words. They put their money where their mouth is. They show up at the events and they donate and they fight actively to support your right to keep and bear arms. Great American company staffed by great Americans, and we appreciate them. And you can find all of our great partners, including Attorneys on Retainer.us, and all of them at armedamericanradio.com. We love each and every one of them. Welcome back in, guys. So, Justin, I'm going to close out that last segment because that's a topic we could talk about for hours and hours and hours, and that is fighting to keep this nation free. And it's something that, of all of us at this table here, having this conversation today, no one knows better than you do because your family lived and died through communism. Your father was a victim of communism, and you know the numbers and you know what happened. So I'm going to give you the final word on that as we close that out and move to more local, stupid Democrat topics because they make it so easy. But I want people to hear from you because you get it. You know it.
My father was in Hungnam prison for 2 years and 8 months. He was beaten to death there 3 times. And in that prison, 60%, well, the average lifespan of a prisoner was 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah, he was liberated when MacArthur made the push up to North Korea and freed the Hungnam area. And that's when he walked out of the prison back into South Korea. And after that, he formed the world's largest anti-communist movement. And, Reagan and Gorbachev both gave him credit for down the Soviet Union. So my family's been in the fighting communists a long time. And I tell you, the Democratic Party today has become a full-blown communist party. And thank God we beat them and got Trump into office. But we were close. We almost lost the nation. If patriots didn't come out to defend the nation with whatever means necessary, we would not have the America that we love and remember.
And that's the message I want Americans to understand is what you just heard from Justin. And I'm going to leave that conversation. Well, you know what? I won't leave it at that. Let me go to David. David, let me get your comments on what you just heard from Justin. Incredibly powerful words from a man who himself and his family gets it unlike anybody else on this panel.
Yeah, my own people came from Romania. And we were just talking about the reason I was in Chicago was because of family memorials for 2 of my wife's siblings who died over the last year. And we were able to retrace a lot of her family, but we can't retrace a lot of my family because in Romania, the communists burned the wooden churches that contained all the family records and the birth records and the death records and the marriage records. So I can't really go back too much in time directly as a result of communists erasing history, just like Orwell, talked about in 1984. We're talking about literally evil. And when people say, well, we just haven't done communism right, they haven't read Marx, and they don't understand that what Marx talked about was the dictatorship of the proletariat, and once they get that power, they never give it up.
Now, it's a fight to the death. Paul, I'll let you close this out.
No, sadly, we have to come to grips with the understanding that there's a huge percentage of our population that does not see any of, like, if you could tell them about, communist North Korea, you could tell them about the Iron Curtain, you can tell them about the Cold War, but that doesn't resonate with them because they're so distracted, and they're distracted on purpose. And let's face facts. Most American brains are malnourished and they can't comprehend it. So those of us that can, you just need to understand that you cannot compromise with them. They want you to compromise. Well, just meet us halfway, and so on and so forth. That's what the Democrats always say when they lose. When they lose, they scream for bipartisanship. But when they have control of the House or the Senate, they take that word and they stick it in a drawer, and they're not concerned with it anymore. So just steel yourself and understand. Say, look, I have principles, and I'm not going to compromise them, regardless of what you lunatics say.
You as you were talking, you're talking more on the macro level, but I want to kind of drill this down to the micro level. This whole deal about Stephen Colbert, Justin, being fired, he was losing $40 million a year, and you've got Democrats like Waltz running his mouth out there about how Republicans are trying to censor and silence the opposition, that this is all a government, it's all a government deal. It should frighten every American. This coming from people who silence their own voter bloc by not even giving them a choice and wiping out the votes, the millions of votes in the primary, so that they could install Kamala Harris. This from the commies, as far as I'm concerned. I've said it for years. The Democrat Party is nothing but a communist bunch of commie Marxist socialists masquerading as former Democrats. Former Democrats, ladies and gentlemen, being like the Kennedys, etc. Back in the day, this is not the same. It's not the same Democrat Party. But Justin, these are the same people that have had control of the media and have been silencing shows like this on social media for years, that never let our voice out. Social media companies that would never let anybody see any of our posts, that would write their algorithms in such a way that you could have tens of thousands of followers, nearly 105,000 in my case, and get no more than 100 people seeing it because they didn't want you seeing it. Yet these people are now blaming Trump for silencing them simply because this guy was $40 million in the hole and spoke out against his employer. Too bad for them. Let's just go there, Justin. Why not? Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, if we did not get President Trump elected, the Democrats would have gone full-blown commie, and they would have put us all in concentration camps. So thank God we had the Second Amendment. Thank God we had patriots. Thank God we had organizations like Oath Keepers who came out to defend the Republic. Thank God for the January 6th patriots. And, God bless this country and this administration, and may we vanquish these commies in America once and for all.
Yeah, in the meantime, David, it looks like they're poised to elect one in New York, But I address the Colbert thing and the irony from the Democrats who have been stifling free speech for decades so that theirs is the only voice that could be heard, now screaming because this moron Colbert is done.
Yeah, they were the originators of the term cancel culture. I mean, for them, it's called projection, okay? They take what they are guilty of and they project it on ourselves. They don't like guns, possibly because look at how many Bloomberg mayors have turned out to be criminals. Okay,
Yeah,
they just basically attribute to us and to the rest of us the qualities they know and recognize within themselves, that they are corrupt, that they are basically rapacious, ambitious, and they will stop at nothing to attain power. And it's absolutely right. This is communism, pure and simple, and there's no other way to paint your way around it.
Now they're forcing themselves. Now they've painted themselves into a corner. And Paul, when we come back from the break, I'm going to turn this over to you on the Colbert thing. Then I'm going to move to a much smaller topic, but Indiana prosecutors blaming permitless carry for juvenile access to guns. We'll take a deep dive into that when we come back. We'll go to Paul Markel, student of the gun, on the whole Colbert. You've ever listened to Paul and I talk on a Friday, you understand our utter disdain and sheer hatred for the left-wing media in this country, and it is well-earned and it is well-deserved. You simply cannot hate them enough. We'll be right back.
This segment is brought to you by Attorneys on Retainer. Get the only self-defense program for gun owners backed by a real law firm, the Attorneys for Freedom. Visit them online at attorneysonretainer.us. Welcome back.
Welcome back, and you should, ladies and gentlemen, if you carry a firearm, have an attorney in your hip pocket for $35 a month. No brainer, slap yourself in the head. You do not want to be in a position to go, why didn't I do that? Don't put yourself there. It's not necessary. It's $35 a month. If you're like me, you just can't have enough insurance on stuff, okay? That's just the way I am. I want my stuff covered. Even when my cars get old, I still got great coverage on it. Why? Because that's just the way I am. If you're like that, you understand what I'm talking about, okay? Why would you not do that with your freedom? Think about what we're talking about here. Your freedom might be on the line if you have to use your firearm to defend your life. Why would you not want a defense behind you for $35 a month? World-class defense. Why? Why would you put yourself in a position to go, oh, man, now I've got to spend $250,000 minimum? Nah, it can ruin you. It isn't necessary. You don't have to live like that. Just take care of it. Do it now. Attorneysonretainer.us. You can also join the National Rifle Association and support the organizations that are fighting on your behalf in courtrooms across the country. Attorneysonretainer.us/AAR. Take advantage of what we're offering there. It's all right there for you. And National Rifle Association at NRA.org/AAR. NRA.org/AAR. Join these organizations, including the Second Amendment Foundation and all of your state rights groups. You need to. It's a responsibility you have as a law-abiding gun owner, because this is how the fight is won. It's how we got where we are today. And if we don't support these organizations, bye-bye. It's pretty much that simple. Paul Markel, student of the gun. Welcome back in, brother. Colbert, he's an idiot. Guy's been a lapdog for the left his entire career on television. Shifty Schiff can't stand it. Waltz can't stand it because these buffoons would go on that show, know they're going to get a lapdog deal, get their message put out because he's a left-wing shill and a commie. Now he's gone. They can't stand it, and they're out there throwing the same garbage out there that Trump. Too bad for them. I just want your thoughts on it before I move on real quick.
Well, to piggyback on what David Codrea said, what David's this is the playbook. Whether it's the Nazi playbook, whether it's the Leninist Marxist playbook, you always accuse your enemy of what you're doing, and you accuse them loudly, and you always do that. And people just need to be smart enough. And see, that's the sad thing is a lot of them aren't, and that's why they can get away with it. A lot of them are headline readers. A lot of them just see the blurbs on their phone or what have you. But you always accuse your enemy of what you're doing. And that goes back decades and decades. So it's not new. And this whole they're censoring us. What? You're the party of censorship.
Yeah. I don't think there's any other more glaring example of what you're talking about accusing the others of what it is you're doing than that right there. They truly are the party of censorship. And look, I'll close this topic out with this, guys. Listeners, you know this, and if you've listened to the program for any time over the years, you've heard me say, particularly since this election, if the Democrats had won this election in November, they'd have put their boot on your neck, and you know it. Chuck Schumer would put in the Senate, put his boot right on your neck. House of Representatives, give me a break. If they were controlling the House right now and they won the election, they'd have put their boot on your neck. Justin is absolutely right about what he's been talking about for all these years. Moving on, Indiana prosecutor blames permitless carry for juvenile access to guns. Now, Justin, I'll start with you. How many times have we talked about over the years the city of Chicago? We have covered together, Justin, thousands and thousands and thousands of shootings in Chicago. And what do? They don't blame 100 years of Democrat control. They don't blame the failure of their own policies, commie policies that they are. They blame Wisconsin and Indiana, because that's where the guns are coming from, so they say. Now you've got this guy saying, well, it's permitless carry is giving juveniles access to guns. Juveniles can't carry a gun anyway as juveniles. It's a violation of the law. Criminals do not sit around and say, oh, man, permitless carry pass, now I can carry a gun and rob a liquor store. Justin, it never, ever stops, does it?
Well, Mark, all the juvenile gun violence for accidents are, of course, gang-related in Chicago, right?
95%.
And we all know that. we all know that they're recruiting underage, children to be gang members, and they're running drugs, and they're doing prostitution, and they're having turf wars. And so that's not because of guns. That's because of the failed administration and the failed culture in those cities. So, I mean, if we really want to restore those cities, we really need to clean out the politics and let responsible adults have their guns so that they can defend themselves from these criminals.
The odds of that happening in a city like Chicago, Justin, are sadly, it's kind of like flipping New Jersey. It's closer than it's ever been, but it's still far enough away that we might not be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel, even though it might be moving in the right direction. It's about a 5% spread there. David, you and I have covered this almost ad nauseum for nearly 15 years together. What do you have to say about it?
Yeah, I think you basically addressed it. The permitless carry does not affect prohibited persons. And that's all there is really to say about that. Before we go and run out of time, though, I do want to put an exclamation point on something Paul mentioned about the Federalist Papers. And I'm talking to every Armed American Radio listener right now. If you haven't read it, read the Federalist Papers. Get an understanding better than just, the 10 minutes you're going to get from a YouTube gunfluencer, repeating somebody else's story. Go ahead, please read the Federalist Papers, understand what the people who created the revolution and supported the revolution and supported ratification of the Constitution understood. Please do that.
Yeah, their thoughts are on paper, ladies and gentlemen, for you to read. And the Federalist Papers are a fascinating read, and there's a number. We've covered a number of them on the show for many, many years. David with yourself, Paul with you, and along with AAR Hawkins and some other scholars. Let's not forget AAR Hawkins, Ph.D. We don't refer to him as Dr. Hawkins that much, but, as he said, he's no smarter than anybody else. He's just studied this stuff. That's all. You can do the same thing. You don't need a Ph.D. to do that. Just pick it up and read it. And by the way, before we run out of time, David Codrea, waronguns.com. Waronguns.com is the clearinghouse for everything David Codrea does. Paul, is really permitless carry, I'll let you take us to the music, is permitless carry what's causing crimes in Indiana and Chicago and other,
Brother, our entire lives, they've been crying wolf. They've been crying blood in the streets. They've been crying Wild West. They've been crying this. And the good news is, I think it's largely falling on deaf ears. I mean, you can only predict the apocalypse for so long before people are like, okay, we're done listening to it. But it's just more of the same. And as the pendulum swings more our way, the next state that goes, constitutional carry, they'll say the same thing. Yeah. Blood in the streets, Wild West shootouts, dirt. It's an old playbook, and they're not smart enough to come up with a new one.
Oh, you're right about that. Justin, up in Pennsylvania, do you guys have to put lifters on all your trucks and stuff up there because the rivers of blood are flowing through the mountains and the Poconos, bro?
No, there's no rivers of blood here in the Poconos.
Justin Moon, we love you, man. KAHR Firearms, KAHR Firearms Group. Look them up and support them. They've got some amazing products. If you've never squeezed the trigger on a car, you're missing out because the trigger action on that gun is unlike anything you've ever fired. I know I have some. They are beautiful. David Codrea, waronguns.com. David, we love you. Guys, we're going to have to do this again. That was a lot of fun. Paul Markel, student of the gun. It's SOTGU.com. SOTGU.com. You can train with Paul. You can get started before you even meet him. It's all there for you at SOTGU.com. Thank each and every one of you. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, David. And thank you, Paul Markel, student of the gun, the professor. Guys, we're going to get up and do it again tomorrow precisely because they don't want us having these conversations. So until we meet on the radio again tomorrow, carry on, carry often, carry absolutely everywhere. Never, ever, ever leave your cave without your club. See you tomorrow.
You just filled your prescription for freedom with Mark Walters, presented by the National Rifle Association. The National Rifle Association on the Armed American Radio Network.
All right, guys. Fun show tonight. Love that roundtable, man. Love David and Paul getting together. Love them all. but putting them together in one room like that, it's fantastic. So I hope you enjoyed the hour. I told you it was going to fly right by. It always does. Guys, we're going to get up and do it again tomorrow, 4 o'clock Eastern on Armed American Radio's Daily Defense. Andy Hoosier, the voice of reason, Talkers Heavy 100, number 94, will be our guest. Always is. We love us, our Andy Hoosier, the voice of reason from KQAM Wichita's a big talker. And I'll leave it at this. Love you guys. In case nobody's told you that today, I love you, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. Enjoy what's left of your day. Stay safe. We'll see you on the radio tomorrow, guys. Thanks for tuning in today.